A6B. Thank you, Ms. Knight.
Is this the Glock ID picture? Are we getting the Glock ID picture? Heck yeah.
Yesterday, you indicated that, now this is from a video.
Correct.
With Mr. Nichols
Correct.
rolling a blunt.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's other individuals there, correct? There's other individuals in the room?
Correct.
Okay. And then it's on Mr. Stillwell's phone, so you're presuming that Mr. Stillwell was filming the video?
It was filmed from his device. So
Right,
yes.
right. Okay. So yesterday, you made a claim that a gun, well, what did you say? A gun is, I don't want to jumble your words. What are you claiming about the guns on this table?
A gun is what?
You identified or thought a gun was consistent with something?
It could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Could be consistent.
Correct.
Okay. And which gun is this?
The one towards the back right here.
Okay. Could be consistent with a Glock 27. All right. It could also, well, first of all, are you a firearms expert?
I'm not.
Okay. You're just someone who's owned a Glock before.
Several, yes.
Okay. And before yesterday, had you ever made the claim that, oh, I reviewed this video and this appears to be a Glock 27?
That was my first time testifying yesterday, so where else would I make?
What about reports? Did you ever write a report and said, I reviewed this is very important. I reviewed this video that was in Mr. Stillwell's phone, and I believe that that could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Well, while reviewing the evidence in preparation for trial, when I took a better look at this video and found it, it was probably 2 or 3 days before I testified. And that's when I first had to really research through and look at photos and kind of isolate what kind of gun that was.
So the answer is no, you didn't write a report.
No.
Okay. And certainly the first time saying it to me or anyone on this side was yesterday in court.
Correct.
Okay. You say it looks like it could be consistent, or it could be consistent with a Glock 27 based on the shape of the bottom of the grip. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Springfield firearm, correct?
I'm not familiar with a Springfield, but from how the magazine looks, also it could be consistent with a Glock.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Sig Sauer. Could also be consistent with a Smith & Wesson, correct?
I'm familiar with a Glock.
Right, because you're not a firearms expert.
I
You're
never-
only familiar with these Glocks.
I never claimed to be Mr. Schardt.
Okay, well, you start identifying guns in court, kind of making yourself an expert, but you're not an expert, are you?
I'm not.
Okay, and you don't even know, whatever this gun is, if Mr. Stillwell left with that gun or didn't leave with that gun. You don't know if anyone left with that gun. You don't know whose gun that is.
Correct, but we don't know that they didn't.
Okay. Right. Let me ask you this about your Glock 27 that you say this looks consistent with. When you shoot your Glock 27, does it expel shell casings?
I don't own a Glock 27. When I was purchasing a subcompact Glock, I was going back and forth between the 27 and the 43. I prefer to shoot a 9mm, so I went with the 43.
So you don't even own a Glock 27?
What?
I just said when I was researching the two, handling the two at the gun dealer.
So now you don't own a Glock 27. You were researching it, which means you were handling the gun at the gun dealer. That's your experience with the Glock 27.
I never asserted that I owned one. I've seen one. I've handled one. I can recognize one.
So you've handled one at a gun dealer and That's what you're basing the identification on.
As I've recovered a good bit of guns in my
Okay.
career. I know what they look like.
All right, let me ask you this. Since you know about guns, at least through your career, Glock 27s, when you shoot them, do they expel shell casings?
Yes.
Okay, Glock
Where is it?
27s, when you shoot them, do they make a loud bang?
Yes.
When you shoot a Glock 27, does it create a muzzle flash?
It should. I mean, when you
Okay.
shoot it, like during the day, you wouldn't see it, or sometimes at night you can see it, but
Okay, and when you shoot a Glock 27, does it emit gunshot residue?
if it's inside of a contained area, yes, it would.
Okay. All right. Remember on Friday you talked about you get to the end of an investigation, something seemed small is huge. And we were
Correct.
talking about the post. All right. Well, there's one thing, surveillance video. You would agree that that starts huge and remains huge? Like
Every-
surveillance video is a pretty important part of a case.
Every investigation is different, but yes,
Okay. You've seen the BP video, correct?
I have.
And you've seen it, Detective Hogan showed it to you?
He did, for the purpose of identifying the individuals, yes.
Right, okay. Have you seen the FedEx surveillance video?
I have.
Okay. I'd like to watch it with you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Mr. Kokomo, if you could keep it up. Okay.
This is just
before you
crazy.
start, Mr. Kokomo, investigator, when did you first see the FedEx video?
It was after I met with Investigator Hogan in the afternoon of the 16th, so it would have been after that.
Okay. Well, are you aware that, and maybe this will help you answer this question, you're aware that Detective Hogan swore out warrants against my client without ever viewing the FedEx video?
I can't speak to what he did or did not do.
Okay. When did you most recently watch the FedEx video?
Probably maybe like a week ago,
Okay. How many times in total have you watched the FedEx video?
a few times.
A few times. When you say a few times, how many is it?
And I've watched it a year ago, or a couple years, like 2 years ago. I've watched it.
Okay. Mr. Kokomo, if you could please publish the FedEx.
Here we go, you guys. Here's the FedEx video.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kokomo. Okay, Mr. Kokomo, if you could pause that video right now. Thank you. Investigator Viverito. At this point in video, as we have it paused, you would agree that Mr. Drinks' red Versa is on the left, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You would agree that Mr. Stillwell's rented white Audi with tinted windows
Correct.
is in the middle. And you would agree that Mr. Nichols, actually Miss Lewis, Mr. Nichols' wife, that Ford Fusion is on the right, correct?
Either the right or staggered behind it, yes.
Okay. And according to your investigation, Mr. Drinks is alone in the car,
Yes.
okay? Mr. Stillwell is in the car with Mr. Garlington per your investigation.
Correct.
And Mr. In the car, the Ford Fusion, we have Mr. Nichols driving,
Correct.
Mr. Boyer,
Correct.
and Mr. Farley.
Correct.
And your theory is that while at this light, Mr. Stillwell shot Mr. Drinks, correct?
I'm not the homicide investigator, so I'm going along with the evidence that was presented to me by homicide. But yes, that's consistent with what Detective Hogan, his case.
Well, you know, he swore out a warrant for Shannon Stillwell for actually shooting Mr. Drinks.
That's consistent with what Detective Hogan had found.
Okay. In this video, you could see headlights, correct?
Correct.
You could see traffic lights,
You can see tail lights and traffic lights, yes.
and you could see brake lights, correct?
Correct.
All right, awesome. Mr. Kokomo, could you just play the video? And I'm just going to ask you to look at the cars closely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pause, Mr. Kokomo, please. All right, so we're paused at 1:02:36 on this video. At this point, Mr. Stillwell in the white Audi is pulled off, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Nichols and with Mr. Boyer and Mr. Farley have pulled off.
Correct.
Okay, while they were there at that light with Mr. Drinks, did you observe any muzzle flash on that video?
No, and with this quality of video, I would not expect to see it.
Okay, right. You just
Play
see
the next 3 seconds.
brake lights and traffic lights and headlights.
Trap.
But no muzzle flash. Okay, I got you.
A muzzle flash is much, much, much dimmer than a brake light. Like if you're shooting at night, you're hard pressed to see your own muzzle flash.
Firearms expert again.
I'm telling you, my experience from shooting a firearm, we do take night firing courses.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Gunshot residue. You aware that the headliner from Mr. Stillwell's car, the Audi, was collected and tested for gunshot residue?
I am.
You ever talked to Alexander GBI analyst Alexander Coven about the results that he found?
I have not.
And you are aware that warrants were taken out certainly before any of those GSR results were in, correct?
Correct?
Let's talk about tint. You've been preparing with the state. You know that the state has said that Mr. Stillwell had tint applied to his windows of that white Audi upon renting it, correct?
Correct.
In violation of the rental agreement, I may add.
Correct?
Okay. And this tint was applied on Flat Shoals Road, according to the district attorneys, at about 6:30 p.m.?
According to them, yes.
Okay. You were able to observe the white Audi on March 16th?
I did not walk. Wasn't that interested in it at that point, so I did not walk. And it was very, very dark.
Have you seen the pictures that Miss Antoinette Green took of the white Audi after it was recovered when Mr. Stillwell was arrested?
I have.
Did you see any damage to the tint, specifically the front driver passenger tint on that car?
I did not.
A little honesty. Okay.
Mr. Kokomo, if you could rewind again. No, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Keep it here. Keep it here. Just play it. I'm sorry, Mr. Kokomo. Okay. You saw that car speed up behind Mr. Stillwell? Pause it, please. You saw
Yes.
that? Mr. Stillwell, you're aware that he, well, you've already stated this, he was victimized in the past. Someone shot through the rear windows, killing Tiara Jones.
Yes.
And now, that car that sped up is next to Mr. Drinks, correct? Or approaching Mr. Drinks?
It's approaching, but it stopped short of Mr. Drinks.
Okay, Mr. Kokomo, if you could please play it. Okay. So now there's a, pause. So now there's one car next to Mr. Drinks, correct?
It's still not next to him. You could see from that angle that it looks like the front of the car. I'm sorry. The front of the car is like, from what I can see, looks like the front of the car. The front wheels are still towards the back of the vehicle. It's not like exact with the car.
Okay. Mr. Kokomo, if you could please play. Pause. See that car make a U-turn?
I do.
Okay. What car was next to Mr. Drinks when that car suddenly made a U-turn?
Judging by how the lights are, that car still appears to be back a little bit, but next to it.
All right, so now you're making three-dimensional evaluations, but we can't see a muzzle flash off this.
A muzzle-
AMV.
Mr. Schardt, I'm going to explain to you. When you're, I don't know if you're mischaracterizing it. When you go to the range, example, to fire your weapons at night, and there's a line of shooters, it's not bam, 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 lights everywhere. It's a very, very muted, if it shows. So this far away with this quality of video, I would not expect to see that.
Okay, well, let's talk about this car.
Sure.
This car makes a U-turn. Did you see, is there like a train that's crossing that would have let this person know, no, I need to find another route?
No,
Is there a officer saying, hey, turn around, you can't come this way?
no,
Is there an animal crossing the road that would have made this man do a U-turn?
no.
Who is this? Whose car is this that made the U-turn?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if anyone ever tried to use these license plate readers to determine whose car that is so we could talk to them about why they made that sudden U-turn?
That would be part of Detective Hogan's investigation, but I do not.
Okay. Could
The heck, lawn crime? Lawn crime! Oh my gosh, not while Schardt is cooking. What is this? Lawn crime! Maurice! Okay, Atlanta news first. Who pulled the plug? Holy moly. Alright, let's see. Fox 5 Atlanta. Oh my god, it's all of them! No! Why is this happening today, right now? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I'm gonna cry. Wow. Wow. I see the chat is on it. Type Shit Low says Fox 5 is the same. You guys are all checking and verifying right away. This is crazy. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I don't know. I guess we'll stick with lawn crime. I do have Fox open in another window, but it's the same camera, so if one comes back. Ah! Not the rainbow colors. The old school, not working symbol. Okay, we can go back to...
What I can see looks like the front of the car. The front wheels are still towards the back.
Okay. Of this
A muzzle.
crazy-
Mr. Schardt, I'm going to explain to you. When you're, I don't know if you're mischaracterizing it. When you go to the range, example, to fire your weapons at night, and there's a line of shooters, it's not bam, 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 lights everywhere. It's a very, very muted, if it shows. So this far away with this quality of video, I would not expect to see that.
Okay, well, let's talk about this car.
Sure.
This car makes a U-turn. Did you see, is there like a train that's crossing that
A train?
would have let this person know, no, I need to find another route?
No,
Is there a officer saying, hey, turn around, you can't come this way?
no,
Is there an animal crossing the road that would have made this man do a U-turn?
no,
Who is this? Whose car is this that made the U-turn?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if anyone ever tried to use these license plate readers to determine whose car that is so we could talk to them about why they made that sudden U-turn?
That would be part of Detective Hogan's investigation, but I do not.
Okay. Hypothetically, could that car made a sudden U-turn at that exact moment because they heard a loud bang?
Check should not be speculation, although she's an expert, she's not an expert in...
I'm gonna allow it.
That would be problematic based on the video.
That would be problematic based on the video. So you're telling us that you know that this person did not make a turn due to a loud bang?
If you're going off the loud bang theory, may I explain?
Yes.
If Mr. Kokomo can hit play, or rewind it back and hit play for a second. You can see there's a gentleman or some person walking here. They do not break stride. They do not flinch. They do not stop. They do not jump back. They continue walking towards your loud bang or your gunfire.
Well, actually, they disappeared.
Can see that?
Don't they?
It's not a bush. It's a shadow. And I went out there and,
There's not trees right there? I've been out there too, Miss.
okay, I've been out there too, so they're like walking through, but they don't break stride. They don't jump. They don't run back. They don't run from the gunfire. So if it was gunfire enough to make a car stop, pull a U-turn in the middle of the road, that would certainly be, and using your theory, make a person get taken aback a little bit and run away.
So who's that person?
I went out there and canvassed. That's an area where it's there's a large homeless population. It's very transient, and there's also a Greyhound bus station right there.
So you didn't talk to this person?
I did
You're
not.
saying that they didn't break stride and all that. You've never talked to that person. You've never identified that person.
Could not. I tried.
Okay, but again, I'm going to ask you, and if your answer is really no, then that's fine. You're telling the jury that you, as the determiner of facts, have determined that that person did not make a turn because of a loud bang.
Consistent with the person walking that would be outside of a vehicle that had no reaction at all. That's what that would lead me to believe. And I didn't charge this case, so I'm not the determiner of facts.
All right, let's talk about something else while we got this video. Mr. Kokomo, if you could just play. I want you to pause for a second, Mr. Kokomo. I want you to pay real close attention to Mr. Drinks' car.
Okay.
His brake lights. Okay, you see the other car pull up a little bit more?
Correct?
And you see the brake light go once, on and off?
Correct?
Okay. You're aware that Mr. Drinks was shot twice.
Correct.
Okay, and you're aware that the fatal shot was to the neck.
Correct.
Specifically, it was through the basilar part of the occipital skull.
I don't know that. I know it was in his neck.
Okay. And as an investigator, as the investigators you sit here today, did you find the brake light going on and off significant?
I saw the light going on and off, yes.
You don't find it significant?
I'm not a medical examiner, but
Okay. Cool.
oh.
Have you spoken to the medical examiner in this case, Miss Dr. Melissa Sims Stanley?
No, I have not. I'm not
Okay,
the
and-
homicide investigator.
All right. Are you aware that Dr. Sims Stanley testified that upon being shot
Objection.
in that exact spot,
Hang on just a second.
Improper question with a lack of foundation. And she can't listen to the testimony to know what the doctor would have testified to. And she said she has not spoken to.
Overruled.
that the loss of any control over your body parts would be instantaneous,
Okay?
okay? And that if shot in that exact spot, no one would have the ability to lift their foot on and off the brake.
Okay?
Have you spoken to Dr. Stanley? Did you know that she called that a medical impossibility?
Objection, Your Honor, that's improper with a lack of foundation. For this was the speculation.
Those two objections are overruled.
Objection, facts not evidence of mischaracterization of her testimony.
That objection is also overruled.
So, how long had, and we can rewind it, Mr. Kokomo. I want to know how long after Mr. Stillwell in that white Audi had left Mr. Drinks, how much time passed between that moment and when Mr. Drinks' brake lights are going
A couple of
on
seconds.
and off? Well, we're gonna, Mr. Kokomo's gonna let us figure this out. Right now, that's Mr. Stillwell next to Mr. Drinks, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Stillwell's leaving now at 1:02:26. And the brake lights have now gone off at 1:02:45. 19 seconds to be exact, correct?
Sure.
All right. That car that was next to Mr. Drinks when the brake lights were going on and off is also the car that was next to Mr. Drinks when the car pulled a U-turn, correct?
I don't know if I'd characterize it as on and off, like multiple times, but that was the car that was a little bit further back from his car, yes.
Okay, and that's the same car that was next to Mr. Drinks at the time of the U-turn, correct?
Staggered behind Mr. Drinks, yes.
Okay. Have we identified that car?
You keep asking me about the homicide investigation. Unfortunately, with APD, we're not allowed to be in, like, may I finish? I can't answer your questions about Detective Hogan's homicide in full.
So you don't know if anyone used LPR readers to determine the license plate of that car that was next to Mr.
You would
Drinks?
have to ask Detective Hogan.
Okay, and we don't know who the driver of that car is, do we?
You would have to ask Detective Hogan.
Okay. Has the headliner from that car that was next to Mr. Drinks, when the brake lights were going on and off, when the other car was doing a U-turn, Has that headliner ever been collected?
You would have to ask Detective Hogan.
What are the gunshot residue test results from that car?
You would have to ask Detective Hogan.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, it's a good time to pause for lunch. So let's be back at 1:40, please.
So doing an hour lunch. Crazy that this is going on with the crazy.